is that calling for help? Look around. All of this is your doing. Fear of death is what drives us all to do what we do. You're scared because you've given up on your dreams. What happened to becoming the best in all of Night City? Wasn't enough I died once. Have to go and do it again. Just want the world to know I was here. That I mattered.
Anyways, that's my argument for why this game was made for the trailer. Now let's talk about the actual game itself.
What the hell?
Fuck! Thing's a goddamn mess. But you know that already. Pretty sure it's all gaming YouTube was legally allowed to say about it for the first couple months. And rightfully so. I think around major delay number 4, those of us who know what a brewing storm looks like saw the clouds the color of television tuned to a dead channel looming large on the horizon, and began tempering our expectations a fair bit. However, I think it's safe to say that even the most cynical among us have been absolutely floored by just how unfathomably shambolic this train wreck has been. When Sony unlists a AAA game that just a couple weeks ago they were personally running ads for, you know something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. I cannot stress that enough. That has never happened before. Not for Fallout New Vegas, nor 76. Not for Assassin's Creed Unity, not for Mass Effect Andromeda, nor for Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, which apparently you can still buy on the Singapore PlayStation Store despite it literally no longer working. Not even for WWE 2K20, oh sweet lord in heaven, no. This is what somehow finally went too far. A game put out by someone who just over a single year ago was considered all but the exemplar of what AAA games could and should be. But now here we are, with CD Projekt Red being most famous for associating an entire primary color with the concept of failure. Never underestimate just how fast things can change, friends. Even setting aside the unmitigated chaos caused by bugs, crashes, and CDPR's Twitter, the game itself ultimately turned out to be kind of a confused mess that tries to be a million different things at once and only rarely succeeds at being any of them. It wants to be an immersive role-playing experience, but it doesn't want to give you the kind of freedom to build your character and inhabit the world as an active participant in it in the way that something like New Vegas or Vampire Bloodlines would allow. It wants to be a content-rich open-world game like GTA 5 or pick a Ubisoft title, but because it's sporting one of the most poorly balanced economies ever found in mainstream gaming while also remaining eternally focused on its core narrative first and foremost at all times, each piece of that side content quickly feels like pointless repetitive fluff that doesn't meaningfully reward you and adds nothing to the main experience, because it is. Also, the cars control like shit. How did you fuck this up so badly? Shit handles with all the grace of a Ripper Dog performing surgery right as the edibles hit. And of course, it wants to tell a story so rich and powerful that it justifies all the hype and Keanu Reeves' salary. But it's completely undercut by everything mentioned above, and so much more. A classic case of trying to be everything for everyone and ending up as nothing for anybody. Cyberpunk 2077, for those who wish that Icarus's wings were crafted from pink neon. So I'm not here to run defense for Cyberpunk 2077, very far from it. But there is one place in here where this game manages to flawlessly capture the dystopian sci-fi world it sought to craft, with one truly brilliant, shining moment that manages to reach the towering heights promised by CDPR's hubris, and in the process, reflects something deeply, uncomfortably real. I am of course talking about what has to be the single most well-written mission of the main story: Automatic Love. But to understand why this mission and the scenes it offers are so fascinating, we're going to need some context. Let's take a quick ride through town, shall we? Good morning, Night City. Morning to me, anyways. Hi, I'm V Seals, street kid, noted quick hack enthusiast, and fat haver. Here's some pictures of me. I look super fucking cool. Yes, I know, I am very hot. Thank you for saying so. And I am a young upstart freelancer trying to make a name for herself in this hellscape seedy underground with my good friend Jackie. Met him while he was trying to steal a car that I was also stealing. And now we're partners in crime, literally and figuratively. And at this exact moment, we're getting set up for our first big heist. Spent the first few hours of the day doing all your basic cyberpunk stuff. You know, meeting fixers, getting into firefights with gangs, hustling for cash to upgrade my cyber optic implants, fall through the floor into a formless void, all the classics. Now we're finally all prepped to take the shot at the score of a lifetime. Our lead and wannabe fence has it on exceptionally good authority that there's a chip manufactured by the ever-omnipotent Arasaka Corporation stored in the penthouse of this hotel. And she has a buyer offering us enough eddies for it to let us retire on or buy exactly 2 of these fucking comically overpriced cars. Plan is airtight, been meticulously double-checking every detail for days. And now, barring literally everything humanly possible going wrong, this should be a breeze. We'll see how it goes. Well, that went fucking terribly. Oh, what went wrong, you ask? What didn't? Where do I begin? Well, first, holy shit, the most powerful man in the world is dead, and I am absolutely about to get framed for it, aren't I? And then, this is obviously a terrible idea, but I don't want this all to be for nothing. Fuck it, let's go Valhalla, which naturally led to... Jackie, no, don't go. You actually had a personality. And of course, finally ended off with, no. And now we're here. If you're wondering how that didn't kill me, it actually fucking did. Only reason I'm alive right now is because that chip I put in after Jackie died straight up healed my brain from the bullet. So that's cool. Less cool is that it's installing a new personality over my mind, effectively replacing my consciousness with the dickhead Keanu Reeves living on the chip, which is so much less awesome than it sounds because Johnny Silverhand is a goddamn asshole dude.
The fuck kind of droid toy are you supposed to be?
Fucking ghost off!
Taking it out the old-fashioned way would fry my brain, so I do not have any easy way to stop it. This process will continue happening over the next few weeks, till my body changes into his body. I am not just in danger of dying. I have died, and I'm about to die again. Painfully, consciously, and spiritually. This is a lot to deal with, and time is short if I want the slightest chance of making it. So now the game becomes trying to track down someone, anyone, who may know what this chip actually is. The fence we were originally going to hand it off to was a sex worker named Evelyn Parker. Seems reasonable that if anyone would know what this thing is exactly, it'd be her. But of course, since everything went tits up, she has now completely vanished. Asking around in pursuit ends with me walking into a high-end brothel to ask her former coworkers directly if they know what happened to her. Only peaceful way I'm getting inside, though, is by, shall we say, procuring their services. Not what I'm here for, but fair enough. I'm also not here to choose violence today either. I have had quite enough of that lately.
Alright, let's do this.
This will be a live session, so events may take an unexpected turn. But don't quit if you feel uncomfortable. You could miss out on something truly remarkable.
I jack in to give them my profile and payment, choose my partner.
Only 2 willing to spread their legs for you. Sad.
Go eat a dick, Johnny.
Drop my weapons in the storage locker, and finally head inside, where the moment I actually want to talk about unfolds.
Guess that makes you a real deviant.
Would have had more choices if I didn't have a certain brain parasite.
God, how did they drain the charisma from Keanu Reeves of all people? Like making pizza taste bad.
Hi, I'm Sky. And you must be Valerie?
This is the first and only time anyone ever says my full first name over this whole journey. And it's coming from someone who I met less than a few seconds ago. It's near impossible to not be caught off guard. Begs the question, how does she know it?
V. Just V. Only people who know me real well can use my real name.
Okay then. V.
Well, looks like this'll be interesting.
So, V, you're dying.
If the first line catches me off guard, this line comes in as a sucker punch. Up to this point, anyone I've tried to talk to about this condition has had zero interest in listening to it. So for someone who I literally met less than 5 seconds ago to bring it up unprompted is a complete sideswipe. If it wasn't clear already, this definitely confirms that when I jacked in to give them my profile, it took note of more than just a couple kinks. This is going to get real weird, real quick.
How'd you know I'm dying?
Deep inside, you fear this. Cower before it.
So what if I do? Why do you care?
Of all the voices in your head, the loudest is that calling for help. Look around. All of this is your doing.
I did not come in here for this. What the hell am I doing again? Right.
Looking for someone named Evelyn Parker. Used to work here. Know her? Know where she is?
You need answers. That's clear. Just not the ones you think you need.
Asked you a simple question.
Evelyn Parker. Not the most important thing you're looking for, is she? I can smell your fear. You're afraid of something else.
This is as good a time as any to point out that this conversation isn't mandatory. An eject button is perpetually there in the form of the safe word I chose beforehand. Hitting that switch may not get us any closer to finding Evelyn, but neither is this, obviously. And yet, even if I'm only here to find out where someone is and nothing more, it's hard not to let curiosity lure me even further down this road.
You just gonna talk in circles, that it?
I can't help you if you don't want to be helped.
What's next? Meditation?
Something like that. Try me.
I was told this place would fulfill my deepest desires. Not what I was expecting this.
When true desires go unfulfilled, they turn into needs. We are here to reach for them and beyond. We are here to understand.
So what is it I need so badly?
To come to terms with the fact that you died. Now move on already.
This woman is actually sitting across from me, telling me with a straight face, you may have come here for sex, or to find a specific person, but that isn't what you need. What you need is radically different. Your needs are emotional, not physical. It's worth noting that this often isn't radically different from how a lot of sex work plays out in real life, but this somehow feels more involved than that. Sex itself feels completely removed from the equation. That was never what I came here for. There's a detachment to it all that makes it feel almost spiritual, closer to the air of a confessional than a brothel. This is someone recognizing a very real trauma I am dealing with, and, for the first time, responding to it with sincere empathy and compassion. When people said they come here to have their needs fulfilled, that wasn't hyperbole. This is the product, isn't it?
That's tough. Rather let it eat away at me a bit more.
Fear of death is what drives us all to do what we do. You're scared because you've given up on your dreams. What happened to becoming the best in all of Night City?
Wasn't so long ago I really wanted that. Then all this shit happened. Seems like I was living in dreamland. Just want the world to know I was here. That I mattered.
Instead of a dream, you're living a nightmare. You're afraid of being erased, as if you never existed. Or is it just the fear of becoming someone else? Different.
This is a lot. Like, this is the kind of conversation I feel that most people spend their life trying to avoid. An incredibly frank and earnest discussion with another person about death. What it is, how it follows us, haunts us, and what it will be like when it finally arrives. It's the kind of discussion that could easily, and quite fucking rightly, give someone a panic attack. Because the very premise is about as terrifying as anything can be, as far as I'm concerned, anyways. In the safety of this room, however, separate from the world, separate from anyone who would ever have real expectations of me, away from anyone who could judge me for that fear or panic, it feels so much safer to engage with these terrifying ideas.
And any for your thoughts?
Death is death is death. You're gone. Game over.
You can't know that for certain, even if you've been there and back.
Believe me, I've seen it. And it's fucking boring.
You haven't stopped grieving since. Or for what's to come.
What I've been through, tough to move on from that. Death was something that happened to other people. Hell that I dealt to others. Now my number will be up. Wasn't enough I died once. Have to go and do it again.
Death's absurdity, the futile struggle before. These terrify you.
So what now?
Now, you find out what it is you need to do.
Which is? You gonna tell me?
You've never backed down from anything in your life. Even when you maybe should have. You go through Night City knowing a stray bullet could end you while hailing a cab. But that's never stopped you from taking action. Going where you needed to go. And it won't stop you now.
But how do I keep up with everything that's changing?
You have been keeping up. You've made an impact. Not a single thing in this world isn't in the process of becoming something else. Likewise, you never look back. If you gotta kill, kill. If you gotta burn it all to the ground, then let it burn.
Thanks, for all this. Jeez, don't even feel like getting up.
Few do. But everything has its end.
I don't know if I can describe how much I love this whole exchange. Taken in a vacuum, it may be my favorite scene from any game of last year. From beginning to end, this whole encounter is an incredible experience. Tackling one of the most brutal and dark fears someone can possibly have, but still reassuring, with absolute determination that those fears are nothing in the face of reality. So shit might go wrong. So I might die in 2 weeks. I could also fucking die today. Or yesterday, for that matter. I could have also never been born. But for right now, I'm here. I'm present. And as long as I am, I have agency. I can make a choice to pursue whatever it is I think is worth pursuing. Be that a goal, a dream, or a vision of who I want to be as an individual. And no one, not a fucking soul in the world, has the right to take that from me. I've spent a lot of time trying to get this conversation out of my head. But I can't. Which is part of why we're here right now. As someone who's been known to get mired in anxiety and nihilistic depression, I can't help but find it earnestly meaningful. A powerful reminder that for us as individuals, the now is just as, if not more important, than the future. And it's delivered with a fiery conviction that is sincerely hard to find anywhere else. It's honestly one of the most visceral conversations I have ever seen in any game. An absolutely brilliant piece of dialogue, And for whatever other critiques I have of the final product, I will always sincerely respect this moment. Normally, this is where I'd love to jump off, talk about the greater ideas at play here, maybe discuss how this scene is setting the stage for a broader thematic discussion about what it means to change as a person. The ways in which we have a series of little deaths and resurrections as we grow, shift, and evolve into people that are impossibly distant from who we once were. And how our final death is, itself, just one among an endless series of changes. It's good and interesting shit. I like it. But even with these compelling questions available to examine, and believe me, I have, all of that still isn't what I actually want to talk about. That comes next, when the most interesting thing in the entire game happens. I say the safe word, and it ends.
Afterlife.
What's going on? Goddamn thing threw me out.
Need to talk to you.
Talk? You pulled the emergency brake, ripped me out just to talk? What happened? I do something wrong?
A lot of things been going on in my head lately. But this was different. Refreshing.
That's what we do at Clouds.
Sky wasn't even there. The person we were talking to, as we knew them, the one who just coached me through that intense emotional journey, was never real. A ghost in the machine. That entire time, Sky was nothing more than a human puppet controlled by a central AI she jacked into, which had read our personality profile and, on the fly, created a custom script designed to give us the most viscerally, intimately powerful experience it possibly could, all for the sake of generating profit. As previously mentioned, I actually had two choices of who to go with, the other being a man named Angel. But which you choose does not really matter, because they provide near identical experiences. Beat for beat, almost word for word. Because they are, for all intents and purposes, the same person wearing a different skin. And that person is, again, for all intents and purposes, this corporation itself. This is their business model. This is what they do. They get people hooked on the kind of emotional intimacy denied to them by the broken world outside, and then sell it back to them through a worker who has been so thoroughly denied agency that they're not even present while they work using their own bodies. Up till now, all of this has been nothing but introspective, a profoundly personal encounter. But this one act spirals it out into a reflection of the world far beyond just me or her. Because when that moment comes where she gets pulled out of the central AI and I'm left on my own to put together the pieces of what I'm now seeing, it finally starts to dawn on me. Oh shit, this is an incredibly personal and intimate moment sold to me by an abusive corporation for the benefit of its corporate owners. And in case there was any doubt for how they viewed their workers, it doesn't remain for long. After heading upstairs and speaking to the owner, it's revealed that Evelyn Parker was indeed last seen working here, though not in the best condition. As part of the cleanup from our botched heist, she got hit with a vicious virus by a remote hacker that fried her hardware. She survived, but was basically comatose. After trying and failing to restore her though, the owner opted to just call it a day and sell her to a ripper doc for, kinks. Making a limp-wristed excuse about how no one would want to take care of her anyways. Real unfortunate that I know someone who wants to take care of you, buddy.
I'll break the link at my end at the same time. All right, let's do this.
Unsurprisingly, there is no happy endings here. We finally rescue Evelyn, but it's already too late.
Now!
She's gone. Yet another victim of our job gone wrong, but also a victim of an employer who treated her as a broken cog rather than a person in need. The same employer who used a worker to give me that moment of emotional honesty that I, which is to say V, needed so desperately after dealing with some truly brutal traumas. A worker just like her. On its own, this says a lot about how we as a culture can still view workers who fulfill our very real emotional needs as disposable, as just parts of a machine that they should be content to whirl around in until they break, as though that's what they deserve. However, it also can't help but highlight the failings of its own message. I mean, I may have the agency to change, to blossom into something new and find an authentic life that gives me actual fulfillment. But does Sky? Hell, for that matter, do I actually have that ability when I know full well that the moment I step out of here, not just this room, but the game itself, and try to carry that lesson into the real world where I, my actual self, is just as vulnerable to corporate abuse as Sky or Angel or anyone else here? Not to get into it, but suffice to say that I am not exactly high up on the economic food chain IRL. There's really not a whole lot this pair are vulnerable to that I'm not as well. So, what is the actual difference between me and her? Perhaps most importantly though, and I mean this sincere question, what's the difference between this conversation we just had with Sky and playing Persona 3? I want to walk a fine line here because I do not know for a fact if anyone was mistreated while working on Persona 3, but that's kind of the point. I don't know. For all I know, every single low-end employee's reward for a job well done in contributing to one of the most famously intimate and meaningful works of interactive art ever was to be fired. It wouldn't be the first time that has happened. And if not Persona 3, then what about any of the other games that have meant so much to me over the years? Between crunch, low wages, poor working conditions, and so many other issues with this fucking industry, surely one of those dozens of games I love have to have left something horrific in their wake in the name of profit, right? We know what this industry is. We know what it does. So, what does it mean for the intensely personal messages which you or I may sorely need to hear to be created by someone with immense insight and talent, but handed to you by a vile corporation which uses that to its own ends, and then discards the person responsible for it as though they were nothing? And it was around the time that I asked myself that question that I realized I don't even need to look far, because, oh shit! This is an incredibly personal and intimate moment sold to me by an abusive corporation for the benefit of its corporate owners. It is, quite literally, the exact same thing. The whole of this scene, each and every part of it, every positive emotional quality I just listed, was put there in part by a corporation who I know for a fact mistreated the people who created it in the first place. Sky isn't real, but the people who designed, wrote, animated, performed, acted, programmed, produced her, all are. And we know how they were treated. It wasn't great. And we know very well that, as challenging and personal as it may have been, most of them don't actually own any of that labor anymore. CDPR does. Shout out to every artist with a thin portfolio because of NDAs. This isn't to say that no one on the dev team didn't have a positive experience or weren't happy to be there, or that every single person present was paid or treated unfairly relative to what they contributed to the game. It does mean, however, that the actual people who made this are gone. Their individual contributions sacrificed in the name of contributing to the greater glory of CDPR's brand name. Or at least, that was the original plan when they were grinding them all to dust for months and months on end. And that's a horrifying realization. In many ways, it does kind of beg the question of how much intimate expression between someone with a valuable message and those who need to hear it can actually mean with corporatism acting as the middleman. Because yes, I do earnestly believe that Nier Automata is a genuine expression of love and admiration for humanity itself, from a whole team of passionate creators, no shortage of whom have to take that theme and the ideas it represents very seriously. But it was still, ultimately, only there to bolster Square Enix's bottom line. Or, more accurately, since it was never going to make them the Fortnite money these kinds of publishers actually want, it's there to cultivate fan investment. A tactical business move, so that we associate that brand with a certain kind of prestige, a certain kind of artistry and quality, which allows them to better sell more important titles in future. Because while they may be a AAA publisher, hey, at least they're not as soulless as EA, right? Never mind that they're the entity routinely pushing Crystal Dynamics among many others to constantly crunch. That's just the human cost of making things that truly connect with people, yeah? Even if it's obvious from the outset that it's going to be a compromised train wreck devoid of any heart and soul, right? And, well, that isn't wrong. Under capitalism, anyways. Trying to love art created through capitalism can often be hard, especially big budget art like this. Because, say it with me, there is
no ethical consumption under capitalism!
Something this game, on paper, seems keenly aware of. It recognizes all too well that every corporation, each and every one of them, puts profit before people every time. And expecting them to do otherwise is naivete, because the system they find themselves entrenched in has an array of powerful justifications, incentives, and motivations to make sure nothing else can happen. We may not like what's going on at Clouds, but what are we going to do about it? Burn down the place like Johnny Dickhand suggests and liberate everyone there? It's their fucking job. They need it to pay rent. Kill the boss? Cathartic, but that's just a promotion for someone potentially even worse. And even if this place were torn down brick by brick, 3 places just like it would spring up in the blink of an eye, because the system around them is still enabling and encouraging this exact kind of behavior. How are we going to be surprised that there are people who play by the rules of the game they find themselves in? So of course we want to change those rules, or at least break them. Do what we can to make this system into something just. But that system is deeply, perhaps even immovably, entrenched, to the point where a single person can never even hope to make a difference in it without a bottomless bank account or an act of God. Johnny drops 2 fucking nukes on Arasaka HQ, and it changes literally nothing. One of the big themes of this game is that people are always changing. And that theme resonated with me a great deal, especially in moments like this one where we get to see the true value of that fact firsthand. In that vein, yeah, it'd be cool if CDPR changed, got its shit together, realized just how bad an idea it is to be treating the people who actually make their games like their hardware to be overclocked the second the going gets tough, instead of, actual people. Hell, maybe even give their workers some control. Or God forbid, even rights to their own work, so that fucking dickheads like the upper management at CDPR can't force transparently terrible decisions on them time and time again, like they did over the course of this game's development. But that's not gonna happen. Of course that's not gonna happen. You and I both know that's not gonna happen. And why do we know that? Because, just like with Clouds, we know the incentives at play. CD Projekt Red has investors now. It has executives who feel entitled to take a vastly larger share of the profits than the workers who allow those profits to be made in the first place. It has expenses it wants to keep to an absolute minimum by any means necessary. It has to do what it can to keep the power in its own hands, so that they hold all the cards in the moments that truly matter. It has every obligation to project and protect the illusion of endless growth. And they need to do all of that, because that's the capitalism metagame, baby. That is how you win. Isn't that right, Jeff? I get full well that they are a business, and businesses need to make sure that they can keep the lights on. Thought that was the whole goddamn point of investors, but sure, why not? However, it never stops at just keeping the lights on, does it? Obviously, the idea is laughable. There's always one more corner to be cut, one more expenditure to be saved, one more red cent to be taken. And God help anyone who becomes even the slightest bit inopportune to that goal. This is the thing that makes Cyberpunk 2077 so frustrating. Outside of the endless bugs, is that from beginning to end, it's constantly on the verge of being absolutely brilliant. of saying something deeply meaningful and reflective about the nature of people and the world we find ourselves in, but it just cannot help but undercut itself by being the exact thing it's trying to critique. It's a game that is highlighting a problem that it itself contributes to, while adamantly insisting there's nothing to be done about it other than protecting yourself and your own sense of ethical well-being. The thing it conveniently, and perhaps tellingly, leaves unsaid during all of this, however, is that the system can actually, in fact, be changed. Maybe not alone, but through mass collaboration, organization, and mutual support. You know, like, say, for instance, a game developers union. We don't got time to go into it any more than we already have, but in hindsight, my run of Judy's plotline ultimately turning out to be about how unions are useless in the face of corporate and criminal power is a, fascinating choice. Also, that Mixer advertisement wasn't a one-off bit, by the way. That played out Ace Ventura tier retrograde shit is everywhere. Quick, let's count right now. Fuck everything. Yeah, I'm next to the transphobia cube in Chick-fil-A. Come pick me up. At least Claire's cool. Plus, getting Samurai back together was pretty sick too. And I do really love the Autocatas. Crucified a serial killer, that was neat. What the fuck was I talking about? Sorry, getting distracted. This game invites a unique kind of hateful love. Endlessly fascinating and endearing in all of the ways that it's fucking terrible, but really did not have to be. Peak Cyberpunk in the sense that it truly depicts an uncomfortably real corporate dystopia, both inside itself and beyond. Eternally typified by the experience of getting into a white-knuckle fight made of blood and adrenaline, as my body unfolds into a lightning-fast, half-human tornado of blood, data, and death. All before calling my car and being greeted by whatever the fuck this is.
Excuse you.
Beautiful. There's a lot to love here. But it's often impossibly difficult to see past its own deeply seated ironies, premeditated naivetes, and flat-out fucking failure. Not often do you get to see a work of art explain in fine detail why its own existence is unethical. But that is one of the few unique things that Cyberpunk 2077 well and truly delivers on. It'd be easy to call it hypocritical if I had any reason to assume that it actually knew any better, instead of being a glitched out calculator watch that happens to be right twice a day. This game is everything it hates. A malformed, corrupted mess. Not unlike the stolen chip itself, with a similarly questionable creation so transparently hard-coded into its DNA that it can't help but be reflected in its narrative philosophy. And, perhaps most of all, it is unbelievably, creepily weird that a studio like CD Projekt Red could put something like this out. Something that so thoroughly highlights why it's beyond reprehensible to offer nothing but inhumane working conditions to the people who provide us with the emotional experiences that we need to help us get through the darkest times that we have, and not recognize how it might just sound the slightest bit odd coming from them. I guess that's your brain on Capital, though. Let this be a reminder. Just because someone writes a story with a good moral, doesn't mean they will, or can, live by that moral themselves. And it sure as hell doesn't mean their companies will. Systems can change. People can definitely change. Yet capitalism will always remain the same. But hey, at least we got a new Converge song out of it. Maybe get Pendulum a paycheck next time too, along with your bottom-rung employees. Goddamn corpos. Rapid fire Q&A. Where have you been? Busy making content and changing genders. Things have been really hectic lately. Are you making a part 2 of the Bachelor's route? Yes. Script's done. Production's beginning on it circa right the hell now, with any luck. Script's currently around 35,000 words. Yes, you heard that right. Around 35,000 unholy words. Final runtime is going to be over 3 hours, bordering on 4. Going to be massive. And as such, will take a while to complete. Okay, but when will it be done? When it's done. You can get it fast, or you can get it good. And I will always choose the latter, for better and worse. I know it's already been a while, but in all honesty, it's going to be a while longer. I'm expecting it to be completed in September, at earliest. Your patience is appreciated. But I don't want to wait that long! Well, I have good news for you. If you are one of the many people who are eagerly awaiting the next part of the Pathologic series, then please know that I'll be posting previews of it as it comes together each month over on my Patreon. If you just cannot wait, or are simply curious to see how this colossal project is going to come together over time, then for as little as $3 a month, you can see it well before anyone else. Fair warning that these cuts are, by their nature, incomplete, but I also promise that I only share previews that I think are worth watching. Who made the cool song that's playing right now? Chris Dirksen used his music at the beginning of the video too, does great stuff. He just dropped a new project, it's really fantastic, go check it out. Anything else? I love my patrons, for real, holy shit, thank you all so much for your patience and support. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it, and how much it's helped to keep the show running. Huge shout out to such awesome people as Black Mage App, Thomas Hederman, Daedry, Hunter Carvey, Ollie Harkness, Patrick Salisbury, Sever, Cloud, Everett Neely, Griffin Alec Matherly, Kevin Thurber, Marcus Johansson, Matthew Cassidy, Neo Nico, and everyone else currently supporting me. Thank you all so much. You all make these videos possible. Alright, time to descend into the content mine for the foreseeable future again. Promise to be back with something really special. Hope to see you again real soon, Chooms.